In this video, we're going to talk about how to say this word correctly. Let's begin. First, I'm going to share my screen. I have a word stress express exercise for you. If you do this exercise, I guarantee this word is going to become easy for you and you can say it correct every time. The first thing to determine whenever you are confused about a longer word, a multi-syllabic word, is to determine the correct stress pattern. Look it up in a dictionary. For this word, you can see on the left-hand side the word parameter, and you see a couple of red dots. The single dots, the little dots, represent an unstressed syllable, and the line represents a longer stressed syllable, the primary stressed syllable. So parameter is the correct word stress. The second step to say this word correctly is to focus on the last syllables that are unstressed. Say that a few times and make sure you relax. You don't have to say these unstressed syllables perfectly or crisply. Just relax a little bit. Mitter, mitter, mitter. So it looks like meter, but because these are unstressed syllables, you can really relax on that E, me sound, and it gets shortened to mitter, mitter, parameter. So practice that mitter, mitter, mitter. The third step is to add the primary stress syllable. Rameter, rameter. Practice that a couple of times. You also see me stretching with my hand. Sometimes I like to grab one of these, a rubber band, rameter, and actually stretch with the rubber band. That really helps me stretch with my voice as well. The fourth step is to say the entire word. Parameter, parameter, parameter. You can say it slowly, parameter, or quickly, parameter. But make sure that primary stress syllable is stretched out a little bit longer, and also your intonation or your voice pitch is a little bit higher too. Parameter. Now, once you're comfortable with that word, we can move on to a couple other words. Here, I'll go over this again real quick. You see just the different steps. Parameter, figure out what the primary or the correct stress pattern is. The second step in this second box is to focus on those unstressed syllables, mitter, mitter, mitter. The third box shows rameter, and the final box shows putting it all together, parameter. Now I'm going to scroll down and I have a big chart to practice here. You see parameter as our first word. Then in the second column, I showed you what those two final unstressed syllables are. So we're going to go through the 4 steps and then add some practice sentences as well. I'll go through a couple of these examples. We already did parameter. Let's go on to diameter. Very similar to parameter. So I determined the correct syllable pattern, and actually every word or phrase in this column here is going to follow the same stress pattern, that same red pattern up here. Da, 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 da. So parameter, diameter, examiner, capacitor, ambassador. So if you practice this whole list of related words, you're going to be practicing the correct pattern for parameter as well. So if I would take diameter and go through my 4 steps, I know the correct stress pattern. I'm going to focus on these unstressed syllables, mitter, mitter, mitter. Then I'm going to add the a, the syllable with the a vowel, ammeter, ammeter, and then put it all together, diameter. Let's try a word with slightly different sounds. How about ambassador? So I'll first work on those last two syllables, sitter, 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 sitter. Then add the primary stress syllable, bassitter, bassitter, and then put the whole word together, ambassador. Let's try a phrase, shall we? How about examined her? I know the correct stress pattern, so I'm going to then work on those final syllables that are unstressed. Minder, minder, minder. You can really get fast and sloppy with this. Minder, 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 minder. The H sound kind of disappears. I'm not saying mind her. Minder, minder, minder. Next, add that primary stress syllable, stretch it out a little bit. Examined her, examined her. And then add the full word, examined her, examined her. How about one more little phrase, the back cover. So I know the correct stress pattern, the back cover. In my example sentence, let's work on cover, 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 cover. Then I'm going to add the primary stress syllable. In this case, I've chosen back. So back cover, back cover, back cover. And put it all together, the back cover, the back cover. Now let me read a couple of sentences. I put in a few example sentences here. You can fill in your own example sentences or replace the ones that I have in here. But I wanted to go through a few sentence examples so you can hear that stress pattern too. Let's start with the word that got us started today, parameter. And I'll do that first sentence there. There's one very important parameter for this experiment. The next one is diameter. The diameter of the bottle is 3 inches. Examiner. The examiner had to prepare extensively. Let's do a little phrase, a traveler. A traveler was injured on the highway today. And the next phrase is examined her. Maybe they were examining the traveler who was injured. They examined her for injuries. The next sentence I have here is my grandmother. My grandmother is 94 years old, which is true. The next sentence I have is on planet Earth. We live on planet Earth. And the very last example sentence I have here for you is she's mad at her. I'll put it in the sentence. I told you she's mad at her. Practice these 4 steps. Find the correct stress pattern. Say the unstressed syllables at the end of the word. Add the primary stress syllable and then say the entire word. Once you get good at that, think of some similar phrases or words that follow the same pattern. Practice those, try it in sentences, and you will soon replace any doubt in your mind on how to say your word correctly, in this case, parameter.